players and a look at the decks here as we head into round number 12. Monty, for people at home, what should they be on the lookout for here in this match?
Well, Greg is really going to be trying to use that Renin 6 plus Boseiju loop to keep Calcano off of Tron. But Karn the Great Creator has just been an absolute menace when it comes to ring mirrors because it disables the card advantage from your opponent's ring and can lock them down in really tough situations. So for Greg, the big key is keep Karn off the board, keep your opponent off Tron.
Okay, absolutely. Keep them off Tron. All right, I'm writing
Easier
it down.
said than done.
I'm writing it down. Easier said than done, of course. It's time for round number 12. We've got Corey and Riley in the booth. Hey, guys, take it away.
G'day, everyone, and welcome back to the tournament floor here. Riley Knight and Corey Baumeister ready to dive back into Modern. Corey, very much looking forward to some more constructed rounds, of course. We've had a great time delving into the Lord of the Rings, the Tales of Middle-earth draft. But now we turn our attention back to 60-card Modern.
Yeah, absolutely. And here is where things really start to heat up. You know, these last 5 rounds are where you determine if you get requalified, if you make the top 8. Huge prize jumps for each steps. This is where it really starts to heat up in the Pro Tour, Riley.
Exactly right. And we are going to feature two of Magic's favorite faces.
Absolutely.
We've got Christian Calcano. You can see him on your screen. Great to see him back playing Magic at the highest level. We caught up with him briefly during the draft rounds. And on the other side of things, Orange by name and Orange by nature. Look at this fellow, Gregory Orange, the Citrus Assassin. This bloke has exceeded he's done so well at the highest level once.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, he's done an exceptional job of proving his mastery of this game, and he's here to do it again. Both of these players sharing the 8-2-1 record. We might get into what that means for their chances of making the top 8 in just a little bit. But now let's kick things off with our Tron versus 4-color control list. Corey, when I first cast my eyes over Gregory Orange's list, I saw Omnath, I saw Solitude, I saw all the usual suspects, and I thought, right, okay, 4-color Omnath, easy peasy. Not so, not so.
Nope, not really the same. This is really blue-white control splashing a green and a red card, which seems kind of strange, especially when Renin 6 is a 2-drop, so a blue-white deck splashing for a green and red 2-drop. Usually a little odd, but with the fetch lands and Triome's mana base, it's very easy to do.
So a counter spell, I should say, being pitched to the Force of Negation to take care of this Sylvan Scrying. So you can see Orange really wanting to make sure that Calcano doesn't hit Tron. This is what the people at the desk were saying. Marnie and Maria were talking about the importance of keeping Calcano off Tron.
Yep.
And Sylvan Scrying there, Orange two-for-1ing himself to make sure the next Tron piece wasn't searched out by Calcano.
And it's really hard to know if, let's say, you just have Tron already wrapped up, but when you start with a forest and one of the Tron pieces, you have a pretty clear indication that Sylvan Scrying might be a little bit needed. And the one little bit difference from Tron decks of now versus Tron decks of the past is usually your counter spells wouldn't be that good because there's a ton of Ulamogs where the creature, the ability is just going to destroy control decks. The counter spells are actually pretty good right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's going to make a key difference here.
It will.
We see, particularly with Orange's build, which is very counterspell heavy. It has actual literal counterspell in it, of course, in addition to a range of other disruptive options. Stern Scolding, Spell Pierce, Subtlety, and the Force of Negation that we just saw. But here's a Renin 6 on turn 2, right on time here for the Citrus Assassin. Back over to Calc now, who is going to cast Ancient Stirrings, a Tron mainstay. This card's been around for a long time. Really important in finding those Tron pieces.
And if you're trying to find Tron pieces, the 2 cards I saw was Urza's Power Plant and another Urza's Power Plant.
Perfect. Perfect.
Do we...
Oh, yeah.
Are we going to pick one of those? Probably not. So we'll see if there is any other Tron land, and there isn't.
I'm going to take another Power Plant. So for those of you who haven't seen the Tron deck in action, oh, how I envy your sweet innocence. My sweet summer child, not knowing how this deck goes. But no, look, to newer viewers, viewers who aren't familiar with Modern, welcome. By all means, welcome. It's so good to have you along. But Tron used to be something of a villain of the format. A couple of years ago, it was kind of the bad guy, I guess you could say. And it works by assembling Urza's Power Plant, Urza's Mine, and Urza's Tower. This is referred to as the Urzatron lands.
Yep.
The deck still carries the name to this date. But drawing 2 of the same Tron land is not ideal before you've drawn 1 of each type.
Yep, exactly. It's exactly what you don't want to see. You want to see the right combinations of lands. You don't want to see the 2 redundant copies. And the same for Greg. You don't want to see as many lands as Greg has in hand. When you have Renin 6, you're able to really function off just 1 fetch land. I think Greg has all lands in hand after pitching the Force of Negation, or pitching the counterspell for Force of Negation. But as we see, it's very huge to keep Calcano off, even 2 Urza lands, because, well, then you're 1 top deck away from the world.
Half of Tron is about finding those lands, having ways to find those lands. We see things like the Chromatic Stars, the Chromatic Spheres, they can cycle through the deck. But in addition to that, Sylvan Scryings, Expedition Maps. There are some lists, believe it or not, that are playing Inscribed Tablet from Dominaria United. We might see some of them a bit later on in this feature match.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which is pretty wild. But O-Stone now, a disruptive element in the Tron deck. It doesn't play too many dedicated interactive elements. Warping Whale, another disruptive piece.
Maybe some ballistas in the main, yeah.
But O-Stone here is something of a break glass in case of emergency card for Tron a lot of the time.
And I think the whole break glass scenario here is not going to come up a lot, and indeed we'll probably see Calcano side this out. Normally you think of a Karn the Great Creator deck as this deck that just doesn't sideboard because you have all these targets.
Sideboarding is an admission of weakness. All sideboarding is, Corey, is an admission that you didn't build your main deck perfectly.
Yes.
And the Great Creator decks, they fully support that proposition.
Man, I feel like I get to use this line with you every day, and that's why you're in the booth here next to me, buddy. Yes. But, I mean, you will see these kind of cards taken out for maybe a Cityscape Leveler, something where if you draw it, you're completely fine with it. And then if you want to Karn the Great Creator out of target like Oblivion Stone, you can still do that. So it's still kind of available to you. But one thing we're going to see here, Riley, is Oblivion Stone probably dealing with Ren and 6 when it gets to 7, because normally the emblem isn't that big of a deal when it's like Lightning Bolt, that type of thing. But for Greg, it's going to be counterspell. Really the on-brand Greg special right there.
So the Oblivion Stone doing good impression of Spine of Ishtar, really. 7 mana, destroy target permanent when it comes to dealing with this Ren and 6. So I think it's 8 mana, isn't it? So it's 3 to cast, then 5 to activate it, I think. So a bit more expensive.
I'm not sure on that one.
I think it's 4 to put the fate counter on, and then 5 to activate it.
Oh, for Oblivion Stone. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So Orange continues to develop his mana, no surprises there. Ren and 6 on the battlefield and 4 billion fetch lands in hand, and also put that Kahira in hand as well. And I believe by the look of things, Gigantha has been put into Calcano's hand as well. So both of them cashing in those companions. I'm not a huge fan of the companions, I have to say. I don't think that they really, in a lot of situations, justify their sideboard slot. I'd often just rather the 15th card. But you raised some really good points as we were talking about this. Kahira actually plays a pretty important role in these elemental or controlling decks. Yeah,
Kahira is actually pretty solid in this control deck where you can use... It's basically just a mana sink with Omnath, because most of the time in these elemental decks, you have a lot of things to do with your mana. In this more control-style build that Greg Orange has, sometimes you just don't use the mana at all, so at least you're able to do something with it. So, with the Gigantha, on the other hand, very, very less than ideal.
Yeah, because Kahira, as you pointed out earlier, Corey, makes a difference on a lot of different axes. It can mean that Omnath can attack in with Vigilance.
Yes.
It helps Solitude get to that key 4 power, so it can attack into 4 toughness creatures. So it does make a difference.
And you can just buy it on turn 3 and pitch it to Solitude if you're really in trouble and you have one large creature, maybe like a Primeval Titan coming at you. Something like that can also be pretty decent as well.
Well, Greg's hand's looking a little bit better now. He's got a Solitude. He's picked up another copy of Counterspell, and there's another Ren and 6 in case this one gets dealt with by the O-Stone. But the key thing that we're seeing here with Ren and 6 is just as a card advantage engine, the fact that it's uncontested, just buying back a fetch land every turn. Control decks want to hit their land drops every single turn of the game.
Totally agree. Okay, that was end step. I was going to say, did we get to main phase here, which Calcano might greatly regret if you let that Ren get to emblem. But yep, that was end step fetch, going to destroy it during Greg's upkeep and make sure that emblem does not become active.
But it looks like we're going to see return of Ren and 6 here. The second copy cast from hand, buy back the fetch land. It's a song we've all danced to 1,000 times before.
Yep. And we are going to see a lot of cards in Greg Orange's hand that are going to be sided out. You know, Prismatic Ending is another one that can be okay if you can get a turn 1 star or a map, ideally. Then it is pretty decent. It'll all depend on how much hate Greg has in the sideboard to decide how many cards have to be taken out. And looking at Greg's sideboard, we don't see a ton of Tron hate, But one card I will for sure see that comes in is Boseiju Who Endures. If at any point Greg can find the case Boseiju right now, being able to loop that with Ren and 6 is how you just pull so far ahead against Tron.
5 mana now. Gigantha the Wellspring comes out. 5 mana, 5/5. And was that another green tap there for something?
Yeah, I'm not sure.
He
played the star.
Played the sphere.
Or played the sphere.
Of course, yeah.
But most importantly, in the mana base was looking about as bad as it can until we got Urza's Mine. Now we are 1 Tron land away from, I see, a very, very hungry Ulamog
He's always
in hand. Always.
I've heard that his hunger is in fact ceaseless.
Yeah, very, very ceaseless.
There's no ceasing to the hunger of Ulamog here. So Orange is going to have something for it. Counterspell's not super effective against these Eldrazi Titans because they have on-cast effects.
Yes.
So even if you've got the Counterspell, you're still having 2 of your permanents exiled. You don't have to deal with the indestructible 10/10, of course, but you're still going to be up a certain creek without a certain paddle.
Yeah.
If you're having key permanents exiled. Although, having said that, what is the Ulamog exile here that is really going to set Orange back that far?
Yeah, exactly. Like, you take out a Ren, you take out the Rogren Triome as, like, a nice start. But Tron in the past, these Control versus Tron matchups used to be abysmal for Control decks because they would just loop together Ulamogs. You know, you would play Ulamog, you would have Sanctum of Ugin, I believe was the land that you would play. You'd go get another one, and you'd just keep double stone raining your opponent and also forcing the Ulamog to be dealt with, because it honestly is a race to see if the Ulamog wins the game based on the exile, decking your opponent, or the 10 damage.
Or the 10 damage, yeah.
So you can't let it connect.
Even if you're chump blocking every turn, it's still chomping up your library. That hunger, as we say, ceaseless.
Ceaseless.
Solitude comes down now. Hardcast Solitude here for Gregory Orange and deletes the Gigantha sent to the exile zone. And 5 life for Calcano as he goes up to 25. But now, without any Tron, without the third Tron piece, the tower, I believe we're missing, it's just going to be a hardcast Wormcoil Engine.
Yep, and another card we will probably see being sided out, Solitude being a great answer to it. You can also just counter it. Not necessarily ideal. Wormcoil Engine, a card that is very much for the Rakdos Evoke decks.
Yes.
Ends up being excellent against them.
Yeah, historically we've seen Wormcoil Engine's fortunes wax and wane with the dominance of white-based decks, right?
Yes.
Because in the olden days, sit down, children, and Grandpa's going to tell you a story.
Are you going to give us a path of some variety?
Back in the day, we had a removal spell called Path to Exile. So Path to Exile was the premium 1-mana, essentially unconditional removal.
Exactly.
In Modern.
Yep, a staple for sure.
Took a hit from Fatal Push, and now obviously there's Prismatic Ending, there's Leyline Binding, all sorts of stuff. But Wormcoil Engine was a sideboard card in Tron back in those days because you just couldn't play it against Path to Exile. You play a 6-mana card and it gets removed for 1 mana, and you feel like the biggest idiot on it.
Yeah, absolutely.
But against these Jund decks, against Rakdos decks, against Golgari decks, Wormcoil Engine is so hard to grind through.
Yeah, any aggressive non-white deck, it was an all-star, absolutely.
But now we are seeing Orange on the front foot.
There's the map.
He starts to assemble a little elemental army with Kahira and his Solitude. But what have we found on the other side of the battlefield?
That's Expedition map. Probably going to be eating up a counter spell here. We'll see if Christian Calcano wants to go attacking with the Wormcoil Engine. You see that magical 6 dice on Ren and 6. Very much a clear target for the Wormcoil Engine to attack.
But there's a clear block here, right, as well,
Yeah.
if you want to take out the Wormcoil Engine, although trading off your 2 creatures for the Wormcoil Engine that then split in half.
Yeah, I don't think the block is as clear and cut. It's interesting if you're going to chump, or if you want to.
You wanted essentially 2 for 1 yourself, although you did get the Solitude or the Kahira for free. Yeah. Interesting spot for both players here, and you can see that they're taking their time in making these decisions.
Yeah, and Greg.
Okay, here it comes. So this is the attack. This attack coming at Ren and 6.
And now let's note that last turn Greg did have a counterspell, but declined to counter this Wormcoil Engine, saving that to protect Wormcoil or Ren a little bit more. So something I think we're going to see from Greg is just chump block 1 turn, Ren up to 7, chump block again, ultimate, win the game.
Well, looks like a double block is at least on the agenda here. It's being considered by Gregory Orange. Maybe he's hoping he draws his 6th color of mana so he can cast Prismatic Ending.
There you go. Yep.
That's the line. That's the line.
Get some purple in there
we
or
found
something.
it.
Yeah.
He's looking for orange, man. Of course he's looking for orange.
Of course.
It was right there, Corey Baumeister.
I'd like to start over the whole day to get that one back.
Reload a previous save, I think. All right, Wormcoil Engine hits the bin. 6 life for Calcano, and away goes the Solitude and the Kihiro. 3 life for Gregory Orange, thanks to the Solitude having lifelink. And Renin 6 lives another day. We see 2 worms now, one with lifelink, one with Death Touch.
So here's the thing is we have 2 worms, 1 prismatic ending, no other action. So as it stands, this is a huge draw step for Greg. We're going to see the map more than likely, and then we're going to see a counter spell here. But then next turn, we're going to need to find something to deal with the worm to be able to get this Renin 6 going to ultimate here. But as it stands with Calcano, even if this map gets countered, there's still 5 mana left where you can play Karn. You can play the One Ring. There's still some hits here for Calcano.
So Corey's, I guess, very niche, useful superpower is that he can see very briefly into the future, about 30 seconds or so.
Yeah.
But only when people are playing Magic.
Only when, yeah.
Because here is the expedition map.
Yeah, I'm getting ahead of myself. Thank you.
The prophecy was true. The elders were correct. The prophecy was true, and the counterspell takes care of the expedition map. But look, you know who'll be very happy about that? Mani Devuti.
Yeah?
He's sitting back in the green room, pumping his fist, right? At the desk, he was saying the one thing that Orange needs to do is keep Calcano off of Tron, and that's what we're seeing happen here. Orange is really, really heavily prioritizing keeping Calcano away from those 3 Tron lands.
Well, I mean, maybe I can see maybe 30 seconds into the future. Mani's a very, very smart human. He's like 2 minutes in.
2 minutes in the future, at the very least.
Exactly.
Ostone now the follow-up play here for the Calculator. And still a hand that looks pretty good. Double Khan, the One Ring, and Ulamog, of course, unlocked as soon as we hit Tron.
So this was really interesting that Calcano went for Oblivion Stone. Basically, he was giving Gregory Orange a lot of credit for having a lot of counter spells in hand or a Spell Pierce to play around that.
Yes.
And as it stands, Karn the Great Creator would have actually resolved there. The One Ring would have actually resolved. So that's a big reprieve for Greg.
The one Spell Pierce drawn this turn.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the one of there, the very scientific one of from Gregory Orange, Spell Pierce. It just feels so bad. Like, especially in an open deck list tournament, right? You put a Spell Pierce in your deck and people look and say,
yeah.
Now I have to play around this the whole time.
Exactly.
It's a huge mind game, and credit to Greg for doing it.
Yeah,
he'll be putting opponents on the back foot.
You get a lot of equity from putting even like one of Spell Pierce in the deck because you know the players at this level, the highest caliber of players, they do play around a lot of things, sometimes to their own detriment.
Yeah.
You know.
Because in a situation like this, if you didn't have open deck lists and you didn't know that there was a Spell Pierce that you had to play around, you'd just shove and you'd be in a better position. But here, no, Calcano shows it respect. But now we have a tower. Now Tron is unlocked, and this is going to change everything, Corey.
Okay, absolutely. So we're up to 7, 9, 10, 11 mana here. So this is going to be a turn where we are more than likely, I would think, you can either start with one of your big spells. You can just start with Ulamog to get rid of Ren right away. That's a pretty safe play. And go from there. I like this. Doesn't play into Spell Pierce. Just deals with the most problematic card and says, all right, do you have anything for this? We know Greg does not.
And the answer from Gregory Orange is, I do not. Away go the Ralgrim Triome and the Renin 6. And Ulamog, the Ceaseless Hunger, has entered the battlefield. 3 damage coming across now. Gregory Orange dead next turn unless he can find something.
So hungry.
So hungry. It is 3 o'clock here in Barcelona, Spain. The lunch menu is closed down for Ulamog. He missed the cafe's opening times. They've all gone off for their siesta.
Yep.
And he's still hungry.
Still hungry. Looking for dinner. Second breakfast, if you will.
So let's see what Calcano is going to do. Oh, sorry, what Orange is. We know what Calcano's going to do. He's going to turn his creature sideways. What is Orange going to do? But there's a Solitude off the top. All right.
Now we're still playing Magic. I mean, it had to be basically exactly that to just continue the game.
Because let's be real, the Ulamog, as big a hard hitter as it was, that wasn't the most devastating XL2 permanents we've ever seen.
No. Absolutely not. And that's going to be what it looks like in this matchup. Almost
It's like
every single time, except like an Omnath. You know, Greg's still going to have Omnaths in the deck. Hasn't seemed to find one as of late or this game at all. But this is all just to put a temporary stop on the game here because Christian Calcano's hand is insane, and you are able to just deploy all of these threats now. So probably going to test the water with Karn the Great Creator, going to get the good news that it has the green light, and then you have a plethora of options here from the Tron sideboard to really start going off.
and another tower as well. It goes from good to better.
Yeah.
For Calcano on 47 life.
So one thing I'm seeing right away when this resolves, Sundering Titan's looking a little bit good right now.
Oh, baby, we can really, really get someone. Let's have a look at Sundering Titan. This is a weird card from 1,000 years ago. When it comes into play, you choose and destroy a land of each basic land type. Now, Corey, I'm not a mathematologist. I'm not a scientific expert here, but against a 4-color deck,
that happens a lot
I
when
happen
you
to
see
think
that.
Sundering Titan is just about the best thing you can do. Sundering Titan is enough for Gregory Orange to recognize the jig is up. And so Christian Calcano takes it out in game number 1. We move on to game number 2 now, post-board, of course. And look at this. In Gregory Orange's hand, a Chalice of the Void.
Yeah, that is...
Chalice for 20. Make sure that Ulamog doesn't hit the battlefield.
That's probably the number one use, yes.
Yeah.
But what I think that is saying, and what I think that is screaming out to me when you're bringing that in, Greg doesn't have enough cards to bring in and needs to take out some of the cards that are less than ideal.
Yeah, he's taking out those prismatic endings. He's taking out removal that is otherwise pretty marginal and putting just a Chalice on 1. And, you know, we sort of look at this and go, it's not doing that much, but it counters all of the chromatic spheres, all the chromatic stars. It counters the expedition map, although there's already obviously on the battlefield. It does a little bit of work.
Yeah, absolutely. So here's the one thing that we're noticing is this is the ideal draw here, Riley, is the 2 separate Tron lands, expedition map. No matter what on turn 2, you're like, I'm not doing anything. Here comes Tron, and this is exactly what these mono green Tron decks are trying to do.
The only thing is, 4 years ago, we would have seen this at a Khan Liberated, but that's that boomer flavor of Tron. Today we see Khan, it's just a different one.
Well, hold on. We got 2 Karn Liberateds in this list. That is, you know, double the amount that Team Handshake's list of Karn Liberated is playing. So, I mean...
There's some respect for the classics left in Christian Calcano, at least. But in his hand, Khan the Great Creator. And so I wouldn't be surprised to see that is what he reaches for once he cracks that expedition map, gets the power plant online.
And to be fair, especially if we have it, it doesn't look like Karn Liberator is here, so if it's on the top, this is why the blue-white control decks, and really control decks at all, would really struggle back in the day, is because you'd go Karn Liberate on this battlefield, -3 on a land, they're left with 2. Next turn, maybe -3 again, play another one, -3, and be taking out 3 lands over the course of 2 turns. Now there's extra tools. Subtlety to be able to control that a little bit, Force of Negation, plenty of tools to make it not the haymaker. If you don't have mana up, I win the game.
Yeah, because often it was cast when you only had 2 lands. Maybe one of them's coming to play tapped. Maybe you're wanting to actually do something, commit something to the board, and Khan would just come down and go, yum, yum, yum.
Exactly. Yeah, absolutely. Just cleans it up.
But instead, now it's Khan the Great Creator being met with a subtlety.
Yeah. And look how bad that feels. You know, you just 2-for-1'd yourself to just delay.
Yeah, to memory lapse the card, right?
Because what would have happened with that Karn the Great Creator when you only have 3 mana left, Riley, is you're gonna go get liquid metal coating, and at Greg Orange's upkeep, turn a land into an artifact, unable to use it that turn, and then you have the option to go get more cards off Karn the Great Creator, or tap liquid metal coating on a land, tick up with Karn the Great Creator, boom.
So that for those not familiar with that interaction, liquid metal coating turns it into an artifact, and as you can see on Karn, activated abilities of artifacts your opponent's control can't be activated. It's the wrong half of a null rod.
Yep.
And then +1, it turns the artifact land into a 0/0. You hate to see. Well, if you're playing Karn, you love to see it.
Yeah, converted mana cost of it, which the converted mana cost of a land is 0. 0 just goes right away. Yep.
So now Orange has to find a way to deal with this Khan the Great creator that he knows is lurking on the top of Christian Calcano's library, and Akihira's not going to do it. Akihira's super duper not going to do it.
This is what I love here. You know, this is such a Greg Orange play here. Like, you have the choice between this new flashy mythic that just came out of the new set,
Yep.
the One Ring, or what about
3-minute read,
Akihira?
yeah.
But it makes sense. Karn's static ability shuts down the One Ring, and this is why Tron is so good right now, is it's the best Karn deck you can be playing, and it's the best deck against other Karn decks.
It's the best way to both utilize the One Ring and also the best way to attack opposing One Ring,
Yes,
ring
excuse
decks.
me,
And
yep.
with the One Ring being the most played card in this tournament,
Yep.
I'm not surprised to see people really getting some huge value.
Yeah, around 450 copies of the One Ring. So powerful.
I think Calc now calculating what he wants to take out of the sideboard. He picks up Walking Ballista.
Okay.
This is another classic card from years ago, combos with Heliod, but here effectively just a colorless source of damage.
Yep, what that is deal with the Kahira and make sure Kahira cannot attack Karn. And there's no way besides a subtlety and another blue card to interact with that. From Greg Orange's side, not a spell pierceable target. So that was a product of what can you have to interact? Walking Ballista plays around them all.
And leaving the Walking Ballista on the battlefield now with one counter on it means you can charge that bad boy up.
Yeah, normally you're like 4 mana, that's a lot. That's only 2 of your lands here, so.
Tap 2 lands, put a 3/3 into play. No worries, no worries. Kill your thing, remain left behind with a Walking Ballista.
Yep.
Oh, mate, Gregory Orange, an uphill battle here for him as Christian Calcano looks to solidify his record at 8-1. Both of these players well and truly in the conversation for the top 8, but Christian Calcano's conversation just got a lot louder.
Yeah.
Unfortunately for Gregory Orange, just couldn't find the tools he needed to overcome the Tron menace, and just like we've had for years, spoken of old, Corey.
Yep.
White-blue base control eats dirt to mono-green Tron.
Exactly. It's still a tough matchup. It's gotten better, but it is still pretty rough. It's maybe not the 70-30 like it used to be, and it's maybe a 60-40, but it's still not a matchup that Gregory has ever wanted to play against probably in his entire Magic career.
Well, we might check in with Gregory Orange later on and see how he goes as we close things out towards our top 8 today, but still plenty of Magic left to come before that. So stick around. Going to take a quick break. On the other side of it, Toru Inoue versus Kazune Kosaka. We hope to see you back here in Barcelona just a few moments. Welcome back to sunny Barcelona here. The beautiful Spanish sunshine is keeping us warm as we get stuck into Pro Tour The Lord of the Rings. Modern's the format now that we are in the home stretch towards our top 8 cut. Riley Knight is my name, and I'm joined by my good friend and colleague Corey Baumeister. We've got so much magic to share with you, and we couldn't be more excited to get underway with our next feature match. We've got 2 Japanese players lining up to make their best attempt to get into our top 8 today. Toru Inoue playing off against Kazune Kosaka. Both of these players, as you can see, on an 8-2-1 record, with Tron once again taking center stage, this time against Rakdos Evoke. We haven't seen a huge amount of Rakdos Evoke, you and I, Corey, particularly thinking that it is the most played deck in the tournament. I'll be interested to see the numbers, see how Evoke has actually stacked up.
Yep, exactly. Only having one player that was undefeated with the deck, too. So maybe not ideal for the Rakdos Evoke players, but still by sheer numbers, we're going to be seeing a lot of the deck. And it's just a good, solid deck.
I want to take a moment to have a chat about Kazune Kosaka, because this bloke did something that we really don't see very often at this level of competition earlier on. During a draft game against Martin Dominguez early, it looked like things were going to fizzle out to a draw. But Kosaka, in an act of really admirable sportsmanship, recognised that his position was not an advantageous or a winning one. He recognised that had the game continued beyond the time limit, that he almost certainly would have lost. And though he could have stalled for a draw, he actually conceded.
Wow. Yeah, something... You know, you see that at your LGS at FNM, you know, maybe a couple levels above that. But at the Pro Tour, draws are still very valuable. You know, having one extra draw here puts you above everybody at your record right now. So really, really nice stuff.
So good on you, Kosaka, as oh boy, we got a reader. Inscribed Tablet. We actually mentioned this card earlier on this round, Corey. We said that we were going to be seeing it. And first thing, here it is. Inscribed Tablet is it's a recent one, right? It isn't.
Yeah.
It's from Dominaria United, and it does a sort of ancient stirrings at home type effect. Although you are guaranteed to get a card off of it no matter what.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's almost, you know, like Chromatic Sphere, Chromatic Star, number 9 and 10. A lot of players are cutting and down to about 5 of those effects. Toru's like, nah, I'm going way up on this. This is actually the only tablets in the entire tournament.
You surprised me. You surprised me.
Oh, really? You don't look too shocked right now.
No. All right, Dathi Voidwalker comes down to join Ragavan, Nimble Pilferer here for Kosaka. So he didn't have that opening Feign Death, Undying Malice, Grief turn on turn number 1.
Yeah.
But his board is developing quite nicely as Toru Inoue has a look at the top 5 here with Inscribed Tablet and has a wealth of options to choose from.
Absolutely. There is both options for Tron lands. And by the way, I like those Tron lands quite a bit. Those are probably my favorite ones. Got options here to see which one you want. Pretty clear that Toru does not have maybe the other Tron land to assemble this. That was probably something we still need to find. Otherwise, you kind of pick pretty quickly at that.
So picks the power plant, sends a tower below the decks, and there is the power plant that we just saw. And it's followed up by an expedition map. So we're going to see Tron no matter what, although it's going to be a little late to the party. Not the full 7 mana unlock next turn, unless we rip a tower off the top.
There we go. Yep, unless you do that. And we noticed that that tablet goes to a special zone with Dathi Voidwalker in play. Yep. Able to sacrifice that and cast a tablet if you want.
Yeah, if you too want to experience the thrill of casting Inscribed Tablet, that's going to be an option available to Kosaka. But right now, we are seeing Grief cast, pitching Thoughtseize, and I believe that is a Feign Death in hand.
It is, yep. So there is the way to take 2 of these, and since Tron is already available here with the map already in play, you're going to take the 2 spells that do things. Oblivion Stone, Karn.
Yeah, these, the Sphere, the Sylvan Scrying, not doing a whole lot. Oh, excuse me, it was Undying Malice, not the Feign Death, but, you know, 6 of one, half a dozen.
They are the same.
They are exactly the same card, essentially. And
so look at this. Sorry to interrupt you here, but this is really interesting. We see the sideboard be picked up because now Dathi Voidwalker can get Karn the Great Creator, and we'll look at the sideboard. There's a One Ring, there's Unlicensed Hearse, there's Pithing Needle, there's Chalice, there's Explosives. This is basically a Karn Tron sideboard here.
So Kazune Kosaka has inadvertently built a Karn the Great Creator sideboard.
And we're going to see it. It didn't attack.
5 cards. 5 cards in the sideboard that can be plucked with this Khan.
And Karn shuts down the map to get the tower next turn.
It's going from bad to worse here from Toru Inoue. This is not something that he had on his Pro Tour bingo card. Having his own cards locked up by his own Khan, cast by a Rakdos Evoke player. So downstairs, let's go and get the One Ring out of the sideboard. Oh my goodness. I don't think any of us were expecting this. And let's point out once again, this has all been done with Kosaka having one land. One land. That's all you need.
Yeah. Ragavan ends up being really, really good against Tron because it's just going to connect a couple of times and get it. But now there's a chance Toru does stone nothing, except maybe play a sphere, which you can't activate.
Yep.
These are just going to sit there and... Oh, unreal. I love the interactions. This is the strength of Dathi Voidwalker, one of the most powerful cards in Modern right now.
And it's not the sort of card that you think, oh, right, this is a slam dunk against Tron, right? Like, you think it's good against Living End or against, Golgari Yorgmoth, something like that. But it's doing so much work here, and I don't think any of us were expecting this to be the case.
So one thing it is good against Tron is we were talking about how good Wormcoil is against Rakdos strategies.
Okay.
You can just terminate Wormcoil, and it goes to exile now instead, and you don't get those little worms.
That's a really good point, actually.
Yeah.
That is an actively important thing that Dathi Voidwalker does in this matchup. But still, it's not the turn. If you could choose, like if you could sculpt your perfect hand against Tron, I don't think Dathi Voidwalker is like super high on that.
No, that's maybe your turn 4 play, but if you can sculpt the fun interactions,
oh my goodness, man.
This is at the peak of it.
Oh my goodness. It's so sick that Kosaka is taking this line, which is just bonkers, but also almost certainly objectively correct.
Oh, yeah.
Like, he's not doing this for fun, right? He's not doing this just to put on a show for us at home. But
I mean, it was backbreaking.
He's putting on a show for us all the same. Unlicensed Hurst picked out of the sideboard once again. And that is enough for Toru Inoue. The power of Khan, the great creator, was ultimately decisive here, but not for the player you might have thought.
Nope. And honestly, I love Ragavan scenarios like that when you have your deck playing with your opponent's deck, getting these weird interactions that never really come up. You know, it's kind of the unfortunate aspect of Orcish Bowmasters, Ren 6, Furies have kind of put Ragavan a little bit lower on the totem pole as far as modern staples, because it's just so fun to see stuff like that.
It's so sick to Kosaka. Kosaka's just like the commander player who turns up with, the bribery deck. It's like, why would I bother playing my cards? Your cards are much more fun.
Oh,
your cards are much more fun to play
Stuff's
with.
super fun.
All right, Pithing Needle on turn number 1. We'll find out what it's naming. Is it just going to be naming the inscribed tablet?
Yep, we saw the point there. Okay. This is probably the first time Pithing Needle has ever hit tablet in the history of Magic the Gathering.
You were here, my friends, watching around the world. You were here for the world first premiere naming of inscribed tablet with Pithing Needle. And Sylvan scrying the follow-up play now. Here's a Fury, exiling Fury, and so Feign Death on the Fury just for a 4/4 double striker.
Yep, and honestly, that's not the most exciting thing that I saw in hand. Next turn, there's 2 cards in hand, or maybe 3, but land, Blood Moon.
Oh dear, okay, well... Looks like Kosaka is going to very, very quickly and very firmly plant his authority on this deck. Inscribed Tablet, indeed, as you can see, was the pick with Pithing Needle. Not that there was any doubt about that. And with the Boseiju already in play as a land, that's Inoue's best bet against a Resolved Blood Moon. He's in a lot of trouble. And
with the Forest in hand from Toru, you know it wasn't the type of scenario where it was like, oh, should I play this Boseiju or Forest? No, the Forest was drawn later, and you had to cast Sylvan Scrying, so...
Yeah. And Stone nothing this turn, just putting Gigantha in hand. Although, can cast the Gigantha off of all of these mountains he's about to have, so there's that silver lining.
That's true, but Fury will also kill Toru before that happens.
I'm trying so desperately, man. I'm trying so hard to find something good for Toru here.
Oh, man. I mean, the good thing for Toru is that you still have 8 wins at the Pro Tour, and you're still doing great. But, wow, everything has gone wrong for Toru in this matchup. And this matchup can be really tough. I don't think Tron really wants to play against this, because you have Thoughtseize, you have Hand Disruption, and you just have most of the time access to 4 Blood Moons.
Yeah, thinking about that, it's incredible that Tron has been doing so well, given nearly 20% of the field was Rakdos Evoke. But I guess it's the way that the Tron decks have been built, and the fact that you are playing against a huge diversity of decks at this.
That's the main thing. If you think about 20% when you play 10 rounds of Modern, you play it twice.
Yeah.
So you can't prepare for one deck and have one deck in mind too much. You want to do something powerful and proactive.
Yeah, and that's what Tron is doing a lot of the time, but not here. Right right
Not
now.
today,
What's happening right now is Toru Inoue is being fed his own teeth by his opponent, Kazune Kosaka, who has not let up the pressure. Blood Moon, the play now from the player to the north of your screen. And with a basic swamp in hand, Kosaka's laughing all the way to the bank here.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So Fury still on the prowl. But a basic forest for Toru means that he can, I don't know, channel Boseiju if he's got another copy of it.
Yep, I believe
got three.
Yeah, there is 3. So if we draw one, it's a little bit online, but it has to be here right now. Fury has dealt 16 points of damage. There'll be one last draw step. No end step Boseiju. That's probably going to wrap it up.
Yeah, I think this is going to be it. Kosaka has played a blinder here, recognizing that he needed the 2 key elements. The 2 key elements that you need to beat a deck like Tron. You need disruption and you need pressure. One without the other will not get there against Tron. We saw the disruption with Blood Moon and with Grief, and we've seen the pressure with cards like Fury, Ragavan, Douthie Voidwalker. So hats off to Kosaki. He recognized his role in this matchup. There's the Gigantha.
Okay. Able to do it. Now that is the Fury. So here's the interesting thing. We could discard to find some other thing. Okay, actually there is a Shieldred as well. So it looks like it's all wrapped up here. Because you can attack with these 2 creatures, it's a forced block. Oh yeah, or Ragavan.
Ragavan. Dashed in Ragavan is going to wrap things up here with Toru Inoue on just 4 life. Doesn't matter if that 5/5 blocks the Fury. The Goblin and the Monkey are going to get it done here for Kazune Kosaka, who gave us quite a show there. A 2-0 drubbing of Mono Green Tron in a fashion that I know many around the world will have found endlessly entertaining.
Yeah, 2 very different games there. Using Karn the Great Creator, your opponent's cards to leverage game 1 and shut down basically the entire Tron deck, and then just using the power of Blood Moon plus Fury, getting that Undying ability, creating just a really fast clock. Really had it all.
Yep, exactly right. Blood Moon, some people love it, some people hate it, but no matter your opinion of it, it was decisive in that game there. We're going to jump into another match now as we continue our coverage here, and here's a name I've not heard in a long time. Jacob Wilson is back at the Pro Tour, and it's great to see him. Marco Del Pivo sharing his record at 8-3, and it's a Rhinos mirror between these 2 players. Last I checked, Jacob Wilson was Canadian, although maybe he's sort of straddling the border at this stage. I'm not sure. Not
100%, yeah.
But it's great to see him back. Wilson is no stranger to success at the highest level. This bloke, I believe, has 3 top finishes, almost $250,000 in prize money. Tested by himself for this event, won the PTQ in Minneapolis. Good to see him back. Really good to see this fella back.
Absolutely. Really nice person as well as a phenomenal Magic player. And it's going to be a fun match here. A stampede, if you will, with all these Rhinos.
Marco Del Pivo on the other side of things. Not quite the resume that Jacob Wilson has, although that's not a knock against him. Wilson, a very accomplished player. On Team Worldly Council, and a big fan of Ragavan the Nimble Pilferer, he tells us. And he qualified at Pro Tour March of the Machine with a 10-6 finish. Very respectable. He's on track to do better here.
Yeah, absolutely. I believe tested with Andrea Mangucci for this.
Lorien revealed a recent addition to Modern, coming to us in, of course, the Lord of the Rings Tales of Middle-earth, and has demonstrated to us the power of 1-mana land cyclers. Both this Cascade deck and the other one, Living End, have greatly benefited from Lorien revealed, Generous End, Oliphant. Of course, these cards have been pretty good.
Yep, absolutely. And we're seeing an end step ice. This matchup, mirror matches as they usually go. A little bit of luck-based, and especially these decks don't, have any really unique cards. You don't build them in any crazy way because with the Cascade, you're forced to build your deck in such a way.
Really interesting interaction here. The ice targeted the land there in order to draw a card, and Wilson actually decided to tap the land anyway, cast a Mystical Dispute purely to prevent Del Pivo from drawing a card.
Yep.
So that what Wilson basically said to there was, no, you won't draw, I'll just discard a card from my hand. So it's the same number of cards that are being exchanged.
Yeah.
But Wilson obviously preferred for himself to bin the dispute rather than for Del Pivo to draw an extra card.
Yeah, and the main thing is Dispute is just not that good. It doesn't counter the Rhinos as it is a green card that comes off. So you might as well do everything you can to minimize the chances that your opponent, Marco, is going to put 8 power into play. Or 10 if you have Shardless Agent. And it
So
looks like this, excuse me, this was upkeep Crashing Footfalls here before Jacob would have access to land 3, where then Mystical Dispute would actually do something.
Yeah, so I suppose it was actually pretty heads up there for Wilson to make use of a card that otherwise is just kind of a bad mana leak in many situations in this matchup. And no third land here for Wilson. No third land for him.
Exactly, and it could have been that scenario for Marco. Marco could have needed land 3, could have needed the Violent Outburst. You never know, and you just got to kind of hope that your opponent stumbles a little bit or doesn't have the perfect draw.
So right now, the Italian in the driver's seat here with 8 power trampling Rhinos ready to rumble.
Yep.
Without 3 lands, there's not a whole lot that this Rhinos deck can do. There's a little bit of disruption. There's things like Stomp or Raise and Borrow, what have you. Here's the 3rd land for Wilson. He'd be very, very happy to see that. And he ships as well. So are we going to see probably a Violent Outburst from him? Yes, indeed. There it is.
Okay.
So what's the reason to do that in the upkeep there?
Yeah, I was kind of thinking that was slightly strange as well, because if you're playing around Force of Negation, that's something you would want to be doing. But if you untap, you're going to have access to Force of Negation.
Well, the Crashing Footfalls, of course, is the hit. Some people will have seen Commandeer there in Jacob Wilson's list, and it reminds me of the, absolutely spectacular video he recorded many years ago, many years ago, with Alexander Hayne, where they played Commandeer, and I believe Tybalt the Fiend-Blooded. It was a legacy video that they created, and oh my goodness, I've never been more entertained by a piece of Magic content.
Okay, I'll have to check that out. I have not seen it.
It's in the depths of YouTube. It's way back in the archives, but Jacob Wilson, no stranger to casting Commandeer. What a fun card this is. For those of you who haven't seen this card, it's ticked up a little bit in Modern, just purely because of its utility against the One Ring.
Exactly. I was going to say, the One Ring is the main thing you want to be taking because it is so strong to be able to. You don't really care if you have to get 3 for 1 for the ring, because you'll get that value back.
You absolutely will. Here is a Murktide Regent. Speaking of value, Del Pivo using the extra cards in his graveyard to power out a big 7/7 Murktide. And it looks like Ice as well in the upkeep to cool down that Triome. It's a classic play. Ice, target your land in the upkeep.
Yeah.
Exactly. This is kind of playing around Shardless Agent specifically, or it's forcing Jacob to just Violent Outburst right now.
Mm-hmm. So Mystical Dispute again a Mystical Dispute to take care of the Ice.
Okay, now Jacob really has to do something big here, because this Murktide will close the game out pretty quickly if Jacob cannot form some pressure in the flip side to be able to race this Murktide Regent. Maybe now cycling here to get an island and play a Murktide of Jacob's own. Let's see, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 spells.
Okay.
So it would be a bigger Murktide, which is pretty big.
Yum, yum, yum. Eat those cards out the sideboard here. Instance and Sorcery is so good. But it's a subtlety! That Murktide Regent here.
That is huge.
And we've already put the counters on it, so is this...
a subtlety back, maybe? No, doesn't look like... I think I saw Lorien revealed in the hand.
Surely this is in response to the Murktide. It's just usually when the counters go on the card, it's like it's resolved.
It was kind of Jacob assuming.
He's assuming it's happening. But you can't make those assumptions in Modern these days.
Okay.
You cannot make those assumptions that your opponent's going to let your spell resolve, even when they're tapped out. And in comes the Murktide Regent.
And I saw the hand from Jacob. It was Bone Crusher Giant, Force of Negation, land. There is...
oh, boys.
And there's almost no top deck that's going to put you in a situation besides Shardless Agent right now that can make it so you can start racing. Because I believe the life total has not been adjusted there with that hit from Murktide Regent.
I think he's down to 10, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, boy. I'm just looking through Wilson's list here and having a look at his sideboard, and there are not a lot of answers to a flying 7/7.
There really isn't. Like, Otawara is usually the thing.
That's in play.
And that's, yeah, exactly. They usually don't play more than one. Oof.
Yeah, this is a rough spot here for Jacob Wilson. We can see his hand here, as you say. I think it's 2 lands.
Yep, just picked up another land.
Boney G and the Force of Negation. None of these cards are going to do any good against this dragon.
Yeah, it looks like this is going to be a fetch for either an island or a forest, and stomp Marco, and then play Bone Crusher Giant and be quite sad.
Yeah. I think those are the 3 things he's going to do in that order.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, I think Sad has already been on the stack.
Oh, that's a continuous effect.
Exactly.
It's not a trigger ability. See?
It's a
Okay.
delayed trigger for sure.
Oh dear. All right. Well, let's see if Corey's rather marginally useful superpower of seeing about 30 seconds into the future is correct. 2 mana. Stomp you.
Bang.
3 mana. Kazuma 4/3. And Del Pivo may have something to say about this.
Yeah, I mean, if you have Force of Negation in hand, you might just fire it off.
Yep. Just the hard cast Force of Negation. The 3 mana negate exiles the Bone Crusher Giant.
Yep.
Wilson can fire back with a Force of Negation of his own, but he is rearranging deck chairs on the Titanic at this point. The ship is going down.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just don't see a draw here from Jacob with that Otawara already being there. You can play an Endurance as a blocker, a Subtlety as a blocker. Dead Gone. If Dead Gone is left in, that is big, but that is usually a card you take out.
Yeah, Dead Gone bounces it, but no, it's not enough here. Jacob Wilson goes down 2-1. Marco Del Pivo improves to 9-3. So well done indeed to the Italian here, representing Europe very proudly indeed as he makes his way towards a potential top 8. So well done, Marco. Hopefully we'll see more from Jacob Wilson as well, because again, a delight to see him getting it done on Magic's big stage. Corey, saw a couple of different decks there, but of course the one I want to talk to you about is Tron. This is the list that we've seen. Look, there's been ups and downs, smiles and frowns. We've had laughs, we've had tears with Tron. We had it winning, we had it losing in the feature match area. What's your take on this deck, and how worried should we be about it heading towards the top 8?
You know, I think it is very strong. I think it's at a pretty good spot in the metagame. Whether or not you make the changes that we've seen from Team Handshake or you're playing the more traditional Tron list, there's still about at least 40 to 55-ish of the same cards. So really powerful, really proactive, and it takes advantage of any deck that is trying to be a little bit slower. So especially with these Rakdos Evoke decks that maybe aren't having the best tournaments, and that seems to be one of the not so great matchups if they can just have 4 Blood Moons in the main. So I think this is really Tron's Pro Tour, similar to the last Barcelona we were at, where that won the event as well in the face of, well, another deck that was at about the same percentage, Hogak.
Yeah. There was it was an interesting time back then. It's an interesting time right here, and we're glad to have you as we continue to explore this modern format. But right now, we're going to take a quick break. We've got more Magic coming up after this, of course, so don't go anywhere. Live coverage of the Lord of the Pro Tour, the Lord of the Rings continues after this.